It's time to go over to our respiratory physiotherapist, Rachel Garrod. She's going to give you some tips on how to stop smoking. Welcome back, Rachel.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now, this is a tough one, isn't it? Because it's all right, people saying, oh, yeah, stop smoking, but it's an addiction and it's hard.
Yes. Yes, it is. I mean, it can be made considerably easier with the right mindset. There is something very powerful about making the decision and deciding that you want to stop smoking and you want to stop smoking for yourself.
Right.
I think sometimes people come to me and they say, oh, it's my husband, or I'm doing it for the children, or something like that. And that makes it a lot harder, because part of my role then is to help them identify why they actually want to stop as well. I always say, I start with this line, sometimes I'll say to people, so, okay, do you want to stop smoking? And they might well say, no, I don't want to stop smoking. And I say, okay, right, why do you not want to stop? Oh, I love it, I really enjoy it. It relaxes me, it calms me. And I say, it keeps me thin, all these different things. And I say, okay, great, you love it. So are you going to get your kids to start smoking because you love it so much?
Oh, wow.
Of course, they're not going to get the kids. So you try and help people. I think the first step is to try and help people address it honestly. And by that, I mean taking away the sort of brainwashing that we've had over the years and acknowledging the fact that what you really like is the relief of the nicotine craving.
Yeah. I think some people do. I mean, I know it's an addiction. I'm not naive to that, but some people do just enjoy it. And if they've got no other vices, they probably think, well, why should I give up?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the problem is, though, it's like a lot of things. If you actually take away, I mean, it's an interesting thing. If you put a patch on, a nicotine patch, you wear a nicotine patch, and you have a cigarette, suddenly the cigarette is horrible. I mean, I literally had somebody say that to me yesterday afternoon, that whilst what he was using is cytosine, which we'll talk about in a minute, but he's using something else that blocks the nicotine in your brain. And he literally said, suddenly you taste the cigarette, and you taste the ash and the fumes and the smell and all the rest of it. And without the release of the feel-good hormones that come from the nicotine, you suddenly see it for what it is. It's like that very first cigarette that you've ever had was actually pretty horrible, and you had to make yourself like it.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah.
If only we knew then what we know now.
I know. That's another thing I say to people. If you could go back and say no to that first cigarette, would you? And inevitably they say, yeah, I would. I just wouldn't have that first cigarette.
Well, in the older generation, I mean, it was hip and trendy to smoke, wasn't it? Because they didn't know the damage. But when we were kids, it was just what you did because it was a bit naughty.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think there is something about, with the older generation, with the smoke being as prolific as it was, everywhere, wasn't it? On the trains, on the buses, on the aeroplanes even, then that actually created a nicotine addiction through passive smoking in a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
So if you were in a family, I mean, they know now that you're much more likely to start smoking if you're in a family of smokers.
Yeah, partly, but partly, I know a member of my family will not even try a cigarette because my cousin actually, he grew up with his parents smoking all the time, so it's really put him off. So I suppose, he's probably in the minority there.
Yeah, but it's good. I mean, he's recognising, he's seeing what it's really doing and not being brainwashed by it. It is brainwashing. I mean, the adverts in the old days, like you say, there were models who were paid to go around the streets smoking cigarettes to make it look cool. Yeah, they used to have female models smoking cigarettes on the streets when it was sort of still socially unacceptable for women to smoke.
Wow.
And that's how they sort of got the women into it. Like, oh, look at that model. Doesn't she look beautiful?
That's shocking. Well, I mean, you know me, I'm not a smoker, but occasionally after a few drinks or something, I might have the odd one or whatever. But what puts me off, and I think it's a really good thing, because if it puts me off, it probably puts other people off, is the horrible pictures they now put on the packets.
Yeah, those are good. I mean, they're trying to counteract the brainwashing. I think the problem is once you're actually addicted, once you're in the addiction, you just don't look at them.
Yeah,
you just don't register them a lot. And I think you might be one of the minority of people that actually can't have an addiction to nicotine, because there are a few genetic differences that actually mean that the brain doesn't get stimulated in the same way by nicotine. Mm-hmm. And so those are the people who, can sort of have one every so often.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting.
Interesting. Oh, there goes Columbus. What about chewing gum, Rach? Can the chewing gum help stopping smoking?
So, if we talk about nicotine replacement therapy, chewing gum in particular, because most of the research tells us that you're 5 times more likely to stop smoking and stop smoking, measured up to, I think, 6 and 12 months, if you use nicotine replacement therapy, or there's other tablets like I use, but there's also something called Zyban. Zyban works on the nicotine receptors in the brain and it blocks those. But Zyban has some side effects, and many people can't tolerate Zyban. Mm. I use something called cytosine, which is a herbal product that has very few side effects. I mean, there's still some, there's a bit of sleep disturbance initially. But cytosine, like Zyban, is a very similar chemical compound to nicotine, and it blocks the nicotine receptors, and it's amazing because basically it makes you feel like you've had a cigarette, so you've got no desire for one. So it really, really reduces the urge to smoke. And then that, combined with getting your head in the right place and doing a few of the things that we know, sort of evidence-based, that are helpful, can really make a huge difference to stopping smoking and to staying stopped.
Well, Silestine, I know it works because I know you've been stopped smoking for a while, and that's how you did it, was it, with this Silestine?
Yeah, cytosine.
Cytosine,
yeah,
sorry.
All my clients that I work with take cytosine, and I've had, I've lost count now how many people have helped stop smoking, but certainly 50, 60, and I know that only 3 of them didn't manage to stop smoking, and only one of them found the side effects. She found that she had a very dry mouth and she couldn't tolerate the tablet. So, it's got a very good success rate. And the thing about cytosines is a funny thing, that it's not pharmaceutical. So it's not a medicine, which is why I can use it, because obviously I can't prescribe.
Yeah.
It's not a medicine. It's classified as a food supplement. And because it's not got a big pharmaceutical company behind it, it isn't promoted in the same way that many of these, many of the drugs to help stop smoking are. Yeah. And it's superb. I mean, they've been using it in Eastern Europe, Russia and Bulgaria and, those sorts of places. They've been using it over there for 60 years or so. And they call it, it's like a nicotine substitute. And I've actually got a friend of mine who, he says he doesn't want to stop smoking, but he smokes an awful lot. And he can't afford it anymore. Yeah. So now he uses the cytosine, and he's gone from smoking 60 a day to smoking 2 a day.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really good. Because I think that must be hard for people to do it a little bit. If you have been addicted, I would imagine it's easier to just stop full stop.
I think, not only is it easier, but you remove that. See, part of the problem is the brainwashing, the belief that you enjoy it. If you continue to have 2 a day, you spend the whole day looking forward to those 2 cigarettes, and you still believe that you enjoy it. When you actually get your head around the fact that the reality is that cigarettes, I love it. Somebody will say, it stops me feeling bored. Oh, I'll have it if I'm having a good time and I want some excitement. Oh, so the same drug that stops you feeling bored actually gives you excitement and energy. That's a clever drug. Yeah. And of course, it isn't the drug that's doing that. It's just that when you're craving an addiction, so when you want you want your nicotine, anything that you're feeling is compounded. So if you've got any irritation, it's compounded by the nicotine craving. If you're bored, it's compounded by the nicotine craving. If you're restless, it's going to be compounded by the nicotine craving. And so unless you relieve that nicotine craving, all those things feel worse.
Yes, of course.
It doesn't actually treat any of those things. It's just still treating the desire to have a cigarette.
Yeah, yeah. What about hypnosis, Rachel? Can that help?
Well, I do think hypnosis is a great added value. Like I say, with the program that I do, we do some work on the mindset, quite a lot of work on mindset, and then we use the cytosine, but I also do some hypnotherapy. And the research shows that hypnosis on its own is not likely to be that effective. Hypnosis on its own as a stop smoking aid, but hypnosis in conjunction with other evidence-based practices such as nicotine replacement therapy, the patch and the gums, or cytosine, or these other tablets, then hypnosis there can be really powerful addition to the program of Stop Smoking. I think one of the things is, what I do like about hypnotherapy that I do, is that because you're in that nice relaxed state and your brain waves are nice and slow, and it enables your subconscious mind to sort of reinforce. So you've come to the conclusion with a conscious mind that you want to stop smoking, and then the subconscious mind during hypnosis is also there to sort of help reinforce that belief. So if you do get an urge, and this is what I've been saying to the person I'm seeing at the moment, that if you get an urge, you've just got to remember that it's okay, I've got an urge to smoke, but hey, I don't want to smoke because I want to be free of it. I want to be free of addiction. I want to be free of nicotine. And actually, this is what I want to do. I want to be able to breathe air clearly and more easily, and all those positive things. So it's another thing in terms of the evidence we know now, is that when we try and make a goal around giving something up, you're much less likely to succeed.
Right, got you. We've had a couple of WhatsApps in. The first one from Margaret. She said, I've got a top tip for stopping smoking. Don't tell anyone you're trying to quit because they keep asking you and it makes you want to start again.
Actually, I have to say I'm with her. Some people, there's one school of thought which is you tell everybody and then you get the support from people.
Yeah.
But there's another school of thought which is actually just keep it very quiet, keep it to yourself, and you just keep going on your own. So really, I think that's probably a personality thing. But yeah, I'm with Margaret.
Yeah, I am. I think it's a great idea. And Val from Torrock said, can Rachel advise any fake cigarettes? She says, I don't think she means the vapes. She said, my problem is I like to do something with my hands.
Right, yeah, there is around that. I mean, it's interesting because the NHS is actually starting to prescribe or recommending e-cigarettes and things like that as an alternative to smoking and as an aid to stopping smoking. I don't think that's a great idea myself.
Right.
Because I think the problem is you reinforce the hand-to-mouth action and you reinforce the feeling of something going down into your airways and down your trachea, your breathing pipe. And all of those are sort of reinforcements of smoking. However, the NHS does say that. But my mum stopped smoking, and she took up, she always had been a knitter, but she took up knitting in the evening when she was watching TV and really got into it, and crocheting. And she said, I couldn't possibly have a cigarette because I'm so busy crocheting and knitting and everything. So
that's a good idea. I like that. And I just touched on vapes. Is it true that they're saying now that vapes are worse than cigarettes?
I'm not sure because... there are... Okay, so in America there are some sort of unregistered vapes. Well, vapes are unregistered and that's the problem. But in America, they've got some vapes and they were having some real problems with something. You might have heard of it, popcorn lung.
Oh, no.
Yeah, horrible. Young people taking vapes and ending up with terrible disease and damage, burst out airways and air sacs and things like that. So creating the appearance of kind of like popcorn. And they put that down to vaping. The problem is they put that down to dodgy vapes that were being sort of sold off the street, and also some of the products in those vapes. I think, as I say, the NHS is prescribing or suggesting, advocating vaping as a way to reduce smoking and to help people stop. But the problem, I just think it's so sad because you're seeing so many young people who didn't smoke who are now vaping. And particularly if they're vaping with nicotine, they will eventually go on to cigarettes.
Yeah.
Of course, vapes are made by, the tobacco companies.
Of course, it's all money. But I didn't realise they were unregistered.
Well, I'm not 100% sure about this, but no, I don't think there's any regulatory... Again, a bit like it's not classed as a medicine or anything like that.
Right, okay.
But maybe they have done some kind of registration now. I haven't looked into them lately. But certainly when they came out, first of all, they were unregistered.
And what about menthol cigarettes? Are they worse for you than normal cigarettes? Yes. I've heard that.
Yes, they are. I think possibly it's because they... it's to do with the compounds that are put in there to make it taste menthol. And they're even worse for your lungs. So, yeah, the funny thing about menthol is they sort of feel like they must be cleaner and better because they smell fresher and they feel fresher. But in fact, no, the products, the chemicals that are put in to make them taste menthol actually make them worse for you, for your lungs.
Interesting.
The problem is when you think of it, you just don't really want to be addicted to anything, do we?
No, not at all. And I suppose you shouldn't be breathing anything in apart from fresh air, should you really?
Yeah, when you think about how delicate the lungs are and then, you know, the vital role they play.
Well, yeah, you do need them.
Yeah, then why we, you know, and it's so easy just to be blasé, particularly when you're younger and you don't think you ever, you think either that you're going to stop smoking eventually, you'll just sort of snap out of it one day, or you just don't consider any health implications of anything, do you, when you're younger? And then, of course, you're hooked and you're 50, 60, 70 still smoking.
Yeah, it's a shame. So if any of our listeners are interested in chatting to you about you helping them stop smoking, how do they get in touch?
So I've got a website, betterbreathingphysio.com. That's PHYSIO, the Better Breathing Physio. Or you can call me, WhatsApp me. That's 699 501 19. Is it 190?
I don't know. I'll have a look.
Oh, can't remember it.
Let's have a look.
Why can you never remember your own number when asked?
I'm actually calling you on the landline, so I can't even see on here. Let me have a look. Yes, it is 699 501 190.
Yes. And there's email as well. Rachel, RACHEL, Garrod, GARROD, 1 @gmail.com. Yeah.
Great stuff. Well,
all sorts of ways.
All sorts of ways. Well, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll chat again next month.
Lovely. All right, then, great.
Thanks
so much.
Rachel. Bye.